everyone. Good to see you all. It is April. We've already seen April showers for sure. It's been a great spring, and hopefully we'll start to see things warm up a bit here and not go. I probably jinxed it as soon as I said that. But see some a little bit warmer weather. I look forward to it. So. With that, we'll get started with our April meeting. I believe Ms. Harris will be here shortly. So look forward to having all council here this evening. So with that, I will call the meeting to order and ask council if there's any adjustments to the agenda briefing items. Mr. Wyatt?
No, sir.
Great. All right, with that, we will follow along our agenda. First item is...
Excuse me. You normally make a motion to approve it.
I do make a motion. I thank you for that, Ms. Kim. I'm just... somebody over here said we're over or under for this meeting. And so,
He's got the under, clearly.
Absolutely. Can I have a motion to approve our agenda for this evening?
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion is made, receive the second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Hearing that motion passes, we will follow our agenda. First item is comments from council and myself. I will start with Mr. Now.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I hope everyone had an enjoyable and a nice Easter. And I just got a couple things that I kind of would like to bring up and maybe I could get an answer on. The animal blessing box that a Girl Scout, I think, was going to do. I was wondering how the progress is on that.
We have not had any updates of recent. They had over a year to complete the project, but we have not spoken to them recently.
Okay, well, thank you. And our blessing box, our family is a big supporter of that. And my wife told me the other day when they went to put some stuff in over the weekend that it's kind of dwindling down. So is there anybody where we could kind of reach out to see if we could kind of help? I thought back a couple of meetings ago, South Iredale kind of maybe was involved in.
I will reach out to the church group again, and yes, there were two different high school groups that last year participated heavily. I have not seen any high school students out there recently, but I will certainly be glad to visit and re-mention.
Because as we spoke before, it's a great concept, and I think it's pretty well used, and it helps a lot of people that are kind of sometimes maybe down on their luck or need a little help. So if we could bulk that back up, that would be great.
Yes, sir.
I just want to say, Kim, correct me if I'm wrong, but there's something in one of our newsletters from the church, our church, it was mentioned that we need to step up and help put some things in there. You know,
No,
not that we haven't been doing it, but again, evidently somebody else must have
Right.
noticed because it was in our latest newsletter.
And the reason why we kind of donate a lot of stuff is my daughter is a big seller on Lake Norman, whatever it is, Facebook Marketplace. And she meets at the swap spot. So every time that she has a sale, we try to put something in the box. And they came home over the weekend and said it was kind of low, even though they put some stuff in. So I said, I'll mention it. Thank you, Paul. That's it, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Mr. Harris?
Okay, just have a couple of things. One is, we always have a little concern in how to explain to people out in the area why we can't get DOT stuff done and how it has to be scored and all that. So I was talking to Neil Burke, who's the Secretary of Park Fund, and he had said if we would like to have a training session, that's one of the things they do for the council stuff. They would come up, we could schedule when we wanted to have one, and maybe Andrew could help us get there because he's on one of the committees there. But with mobility plan, how that works, that keeps us, but we still have to be scored to get those things to try to keep the smaller projects moving while we wait for the bigger 4-lane and stuff like that. But if we would like the training session, he said he'd be glad to come here. And I think we might want to do that.
Ms. Wyatt, that's something that maybe you and Lynn work with Neil, and so that's a good time. It'd be great to
Absolutely. We have a meeting scheduled for tomorrow morning for some DOT funding. I think you may have forwarded that email to me. We have a meeting tomorrow morning and we will discuss then and follow up. But anytime we can offer classes like that, I think is advantageous.
And I talked to Andrew after Neil said that, he said he'd be willing to help out too, to get something going to train people. And it just helps like the council to kind of explain out in the community why it takes a while to get DOT's approval, and you have to, you know, these things, even with this roadway, you still gotta get it scored every so often, get to fit in that category, so maybe I didn't really understand everything that was going there, so I thought, maybe we need that. And the only other thing I want to say is that I thought we had a pretty good group of nominees for our Citizen Organization of the Year, which make it a little tough now for the council to pick out the winners.
Yes, it does.
As I go through, I said, well, that'd be a good one, then that'd be a good one. It's kind of like, no, that's gonna be difficult, but that's a good thing.
Great,
That's it.
great, thank you. Mr. Auction?
We'll hereby make a pledge to never make a comment on the weather again at one of these meetings. Paid dearly for that one these past couple weeks. But other than that, just looking forward to a busy week. We got our budget workshop this week, 2 meetings here, the agenda briefing and the council meeting, and we've got a Central Line Board meeting this week as well. So it's government week for me. So looking forward to getting a lot of stuff done. So I look forward to it.
Ms. Harris?
Whew, as I catch my breath. But now I'll be taking off on Mondays that I have council meetings. I'm coming from Charlotte. I too was looking at my calendar this week. I said, I guess I'll be seeing council a whole lot this week. So looking forward to the meetings that we have on this week. Speaking of meetings, I had 2 very engaging meetings with some citizens. They were just curious about different things about the town and things that they don't understand. I haven't even had a chance to talk to the mayor or Lynn, but they were just talking about things that they didn't understand in the town. And I said, well, I don't know if we can, I think Lynn had mentioned this one time about having meetings where citizens can come in and ask questions, and they had a lot of questions, and I didn't want to steer them wrong. I guess I'll be speaking to you about when you're gonna have those meetings, and speaking to the manager, because our citizens do want to know. And a lot of times, things get made up on social media from what they don't know or don't understand. It was just very good meetings, very good informational meetings for me, knowing that our citizens don't understand a lot. But that would be good for us to engage with them and just help them to understand different things about the town and roads, and they don't understand how some roads are not our roads and things like that. It'd be good for them to get that. One last thing, I think it was something that George just said. I can't remember what it was. Anyway, I think I'm done, Mayor.
Okay. We'll come back.
You're getting to the shop first.
Mr. Hinkle?
Yeah, I was gonna comment, we talk about that a lot at the Lake Norman Transportation Commission, which of course is sub of CARPO, and since Pat McCoy was mayor, that's, scoring, numbers, data is the big thing as opposed to politics. Before his gubernatorial term years ago, directed where a lot of roads went. So you've got to know that and understand that to know why DOT makes some of the decisions they do. And of course, others will never know why. But that's a big part, and you're right. We should fully understand that, at least somewhat understand why DOT does make decisions, and why some things seem fairly quickly for state government, and other things seem to take forever, promised, and 20 years later, nothing still has never happened yet. So I'm looking forward to that when it's set up. Also, I'm glad to see that a lot that Shane Harris, our code enforcement officer, is out enforcing a lot of our code enforcement rules. We've had some things on the books for a long time that have not been followed up on or enforced. They're finally being done. Thank goodness for that. And I'm noticing it, and I presume the rest of us are noticing it too. And I won't go into any details. I'll just make the broad statement. And so I applaud Shane. I applaud his bosses, from immediate up to the big one at the top, for seeing that work is getting done, and that Shane is sticking to it, and I'm getting good feedback that he's not going in with the sledgehammer, he's going in with the, the carrot type of approach, and only, elevates when it's absolutely necessary and to get people's attention, which, that's just common sense. So, thank you for that. Yeah, on that other, you're right. We still have folks that, no matter what we say here in town, here at these meetings, no matter what is said in the weekly newsletter, not the weekly, monthly newsletter that goes out with the water and sewer bills and all the other things, and the radio program that our town manager is part of it once a week, and some of these things we've been saying for as long as I can remember, and folks are still not understanding. So if it'll take direct meetings with them, I'm all for it. I'll be at each and every one that I can be at to repeat, some of these things that I would have thought a long time ago most folks have understood, but a lot of people, these are not people that just recently moved into town. These are folks that have been here for a considerable length of time, some maybe all their lives, that still don't understand some things that we've been trying to get the information out there on, so they understand why some of the things are the way they are and why we have to make or can't make some of the decisions they'd like for us to make. I also would, if we can set some communal or community type meetings to help that in some way, I certainly support it 100%. Yeah. That's it, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. As Mr. Nell said, hopefully everybody had a wonderful Easter and some restful time with family. Appreciate the way the town looks today. Just want to say it looks good, and so I appreciate all the work the staff has done to keep our town looking good. Just to piggyback on a couple of things that folks had mentioned, I appreciate Mr. Now bringing up the blessing box. Usually about this time of the year, we have a challenge at my job to try to get our associates out and doing some things, because hunger and nutrition is one of our core strategies, and usually I'm usually out there trying to fill that box as well. So I appreciate the reminder. So hopefully folks in the community that have can also continue to support that blessing box. And for those who don't have, we'll have something to count on in terms of having a meal. Also, just a note here, as folks are talking about communications. Communications is one of those. I know this and other boards have discussed over the years how we continue to communicate what's happening within the town. I will continue to encourage folks to join our meetings also, and to be actively engaged, and hopefully they will take advantage of what's happening. And I don't think, as Mr. Hinkle mentioned, I continue to get questions also about probably like Ms. Harris about what's going on in the town, and it's always it's a continued challenge on communications, and so we'll have to continue to stay on top of that. So with that, we'll keep moving through our agenda. I would say next item would be staff. I'll turn it over to Mr. White.
Mayor Pro Tem reached out earlier, and to make all of you all aware, I apologize, I did not see that until just prior to the meeting starting. But a question that a lot of our citizens ask, as you all have been asked, is the road construction South Main Street around Autumn Leaf Road. The big question is, when is it going to be done? Why are they working at night instead of day? Who approved that, et cetera, et cetera. And to try to address some of that for those that may be watching or will review the video of our meeting later, that project it came about to be because of development And as we have discussed before, any project that comes before you all, depending upon its size, then determines how many, or to what degree a traffic impact analysis has to be done. That weighs in with the state and the planning department, the town. We all sit there with the developer and say, okay, that this is based off of whatever, that they have to make certain traffic improvements or intersection improvements. It can be stoplights, it can be signage. In this case, it was turning lanes for the Falls Cove phases of development that's going in out there because of the increased traffic, people turning left or right depending on direction of travel. That's the reason that came up, and that's one of those reasons is this development's coming, therefore we need to make sure that traffic can flow close to as free as it did prior. That being said, the second part of that was they started construction during the daylight hours, and there's certain times that by rule they can only work from this time to that time. The group was actually in violation of that. I went down and said, oh, no, you can't start work before 9 o'clock. And they said, we didn't. I looked at my watch, it was a minute after 9. I said, these guys have been working for at least an hour. You just showed up at 9. No work can begin until 9 a.m. But my question is, why are you all working during the day? That first day, Lynn can confirm, the planning office had several dozens, if not 100 phone calls. The town hall was worn out because of all the disruption of that traffic. DOT had several, they said several hundred phone calls to them wanting to know who allowed such a travesty to occur. They got together with the project manager and said, okay, it will offend the least amount of people to do this at nighttime. So DOT, with town, my permission, said, oh yeah, nighttime is going to be the least disruptive. We, of course, had some citizens that were impacted by that, and that's one of those bad seats that I have to sit in from time to time, is how do we impact the least amount of citizens? And that one was for the project to occur at nighttime. And we apologize that it disrupted anyone. However, whether it's our own home improvements that we do, when there is an improvement, there's a disruption. The project was already supposed to be complete, but because of weather and because of some concerns that they run into, last week, for example, they put out, what do we call that system?
Automated traffic lights.
Phone calls.
Oh, the
Blackboard. And all that simply means is it's, you all invested, as we recommended, into an updated version to where if we have updated version of a system to where if we have issues around town, we will do this phone call that tells people. I think Councilman Oxer, he even commented one time he liked having a real person talking instead of it sounding like a robot. And this just simply states whatever the issue is, whatever the concern is. The problem with most of the phone calls we got is the folks had not taken time to make sure they was connected to our citizen. We can't just assume everybody is connected. We have offered that, going back to what the Mayor and Mayor Pro Tem said, and numerous meetings on the radio and the newsletter and the bills that go out. Please put your phone number to this. That way we can keep you informed. So the most of the calls we got last week about why my water's not back on, why would you dare turn it off and not tell me, was because they did not attach their phone number to a system so that they would know. The water was supposed to be off 9 p.m. to 6 a.m., but sometimes things happen and things break, and they didn't have all the necessary parts, and it wound up being shortly before 8 o'clock that water was resumed. So again, it's, the town did not fail to plan, and the town has not tried to be offensive to any citizen. We did plan, and we tried to be the least invasive or offending to the least amount of population that we could. That's why that water repair was supposed to be at night, but the weather and all those factors has postponed it. They're telling us we're still 4 to 6 weeks out to answer the question that you have been asked, but we hope that weather is good, and if it is, then it should be completed. The next thing I would like, does anybody have any questions about that before I move on? Thank you. The next part is, this weekend is a good example. Again, one of you all commented to, about things on social media. I would just like to relay, we do business at Town Hall. We do it in open meetings with you all. The public is invited, we encourage them to be, but there are things sometimes that cannot be discussed in a regular meeting, and we understand. Just like Council Lady Harris met with citizens this time that had information, Councilman Harris, Council Lady and Councilman, has both had some incidents recently to where, is there something else we could do? And Lynn had offered that a couple times. Again, to your point, Mayor, we have put it out, but that still don't mean that everybody gets it. So we certainly will do that. There's some citizens that have reached out recently and said, why are we not going to social media to correct things that are put out there, or press articles? Why are we not going to correct those? And the simple answer to that, and Gary is here to reiterate, if I say it wrong, we should conduct business here as openly and transparently as we can. Going to social media and trying to correct things, there's people out there sometimes that just state stuff to see what can be stirred up. And we can't discern when it's a legitimate question. If it was, we've got phone numbers for Town Hall, we've got personnel here that can answer it, and we certainly, as you all as elected officials, know that citizens reach out to you on a regular basis. We wish to be responsive, but unless you all direct me or staff to do differently, we will not be responding to the social media post and trying to correct misinformation that gets put there, because that's not the proper form or place for us to do town business. One of the things that was discussed, did anybody have any questions or comments on that one? The next thing is, one of the things that we had made the decision to do, some of our people of interest like all the activities we do in town or around town, or different nonprofit groups or different churches do. And one of the decisions that was made by us on the staff level was the Easter egg hunt, for example. There were many churches that were doing it, and we made the conscious effort, as we had pulled back from other activities, that in normal towns, nonprofits and or individuals and or groups come together to make certain events happen. And we had been filling that void for a long time as a town. And we had decided, as was the calendar proposed to you all in January, that we would not do an Easter egg hunt, because there's several that happen in our community. And it's really not a town burden to do that. But we had a couple guys in real estate called Antrican and Company that volunteered to do the community Easter egg hunt. We put that on our Parks and Rec page. It was in our newsletter. We put that out Saturday. You all know how horrendous the weather was. And those folks asked, and it was just ironic that Easter we did not have the park reserved for something else. So they were able to reschedule, instead of it being a rainy and very cold Saturday, to do it yesterday afternoon. They had somewhere 50 to 75 kids show up, and it was a wonderful event. But I would like to thank them publicly for, as a group that decided, hey, we would still like to do something and offer that tradition, even though it was in a different context. It was a great event. We have met with several other nonprofits that are trying to do events in or around town that would involve us or our police department and or other staff. One thing I would like to mention to you all is that you all already approved is the notice that's up at the fire department with the tree, and the councilman now actually brought an article where this is child abuse prevention month. The one tree there is tied with blue ribbons just to bring an attention to the problem. And just like we heard some folks state, sometimes it's not a physical abuse, it's the failing to encourage a child to reach their potential by saying things that are detrimental to them, but we do appreciate all the groups that came together to ask, could that tree be used? And out here in front of Town Hall was the Lake Norman Evening Exchange Club, and we appreciate those groups wanting to bring this spotlight aware. In addition to that, the Lake Norman Evening Exchange Club on Memorial Day will be hosting a walk of honor that will start basically where our town sign is, and go all the way up to Old Murdoch Road with proper flag spacing. Lowe's from exit 42 has already committed to help with certain things there, but we're excited about that. I would also, Chief, what is your 5K day?
May 20th is the Red and Blue 5K at 7 p.m. is the start of it. It starts at the depot. Registration is, you can pre-register on race day at 6 or register online at runtime.com. And then on May 6th, starting at 6 p.m., we'll have a mini kickball game with officers. Anybody wants to show up down at the baseball field.
What day was that?
May 6th.
And that starts from 6 p.m. till 8 p.m. We'll have a food truck there.
So the staff is busy. We have persons helping Parks and Rec, and they have been totally amazed, as we made you all aware during the annual planning session, that a lot of departments that size, service and the amount of citizens we have 9 or 10 employees. It was 9 point something. But the one addition to staff there has commented, wow, one person did all this before I got here? It's like, So I appreciate all the staff, and as you all have in your packets, we have got a good employees of the month. We decided to split that up amongst the 3 because all 3 actually did the projects that saved the town well over $100,000, and I won't say any more there. I'll let Emily on Thursday night do her presentation of that. But unless you all have anything else, that's all I have for staff comments. Yes, sir?
I probably should have brought this up when I had some questions. But you were talking about an event, and it wasn't down at Troutman event. It was an event at the Airedale County Fairgrounds. And I guess maybe our chief could answer this question. It was a small, when I say a smaller event, it looked like attendance-wise, it wasn't as big as the horse show that they've had in the past, even though it was a good amount of people. I noticed some of our Troutman police officers were on site, helping people, cross the street and helping traffic get out. Were they paid by the town, or they were contracted out by the horse show?
They were working secondary employment through, they were contracting with the horse auction.
Great.
Doing off-duty services. We weren't doing that. Our home duty guys were not doing anything with that.
Super. Is there any reason, though, being that it's a kind of a county event, okay? And I like our guys getting paid off duty, that's the way I think we should go with it, it's possible. But how come there wasn't more of an Iredell County Sheriff's presence there?
I can answer that.
City limits.
I can, yes. It's in our town limits. And years ago, when that first started, the sheriff's office did do it. But the town had some type, Mayor Pro Tem may remember, but there was some type of discussion before the council, and this was in the neighborhood of 20-ish, 25 years ago maybe, that there was some type of discussion that any event that occurs in our town limits, they have to get permits for that event to occur. But that site in particular, it was mentioned that Troutman Police Department should have the option. That's not something that the chief or I created. It's something that was well over 20 years old, that any events that occur here, if it involves more than 50 people, then they need to get a permit, and then that permit, it goes through the various departments depending on what size it is and what they're doing. And one of the first departments it goes to is the police department, for the chief to review and determine if additional officers are needed. Some events occur, no officers are needed, and he signs off that it's okay, go ahead. Others, he may determine that they need 8 officers. It just depends on the event, what they're doing, and some other factors. It may involve public works, it may involve some of us others, but it goes through its process depending on what it is. But that's why law enforcement up there has always, well, changed to Troutman Police and has been ever since it was changed.
Thank you, Chief, for being proactive, for getting our guys that off-duty stuff up there too. So, we'll appreciate that very much. Thank you.
Quick question. You mentioned the tree planting, Rotary was looking at a tree. Is that the same tree or a different tree?
I apologize, I wasn't more clear. We have had a tree planting, and that was one of those because of weather. We wound up and planted 2 trees prior to us having Rotary with shovels and go out and dig holes. But there are 2 trees now planted near this tree that we marked for the child abuse. And I spoke with the chair of the Rotary and said, hey, sorry for last minute notice. Some folks were not available. We still intend on meeting with Rotary, whatever their folks can show up. But the Rotary bought a tree, Councilman now and Councilman Harris bought the other tree so that we would have a pair to go up. But we certainly want to thank the Rotary Club and the 2 councilmen for making sure those trees were added to the greenway.
Other question, are we needing other trees or are we good at this point? Those probably just one of them at least had to be taken down.
At this time of the year, we are good. There is a huge one basically across from Dr. Patel's office that we had to remove because it was split in the center. I think I took Councilman Oxer down there and said, look through that tree. And I know a couple other councilmen were there. That one had to be removed. It was not like these others that are more of a flowering type tree. We certainly can replace that one. As far as a couple others, we're kind of in limbo to see if the trimming helps them to be productive trees. If not, we will have to remove a couple more, and this coming fall/winter is when we would replant those, or early spring next year. But to answer your question, one now, if somebody wanted to, it needs to be more of a hardwood style tree instead of the flowering type, but we certainly will have possibilities with more. As Emily and I get time to sit down with the appropriate planters, we definitely have trees in the park that will need to come forth there.
Any other questions?
Which tree are you talking about that, I wasn't able to be there, I would have been, I wasn't able to. I noticed a tree in front of the coffee shop. It's purple on it. Your coffee place.
They have one on theirs, yes, but the one we have marked is in front of the fire department.
Yeah, I saw we had those 2 replaced, and I thought that was being done to replace ones that had died.
That's correct.
And so forth, or whatever. So those were sponsored, one by Eddie and George, and the other one by Will.
Yes, sir.
Okay. What species tree?
I'm sorry?
What species tree are they?
I wish you had noticed.
That's okay, that's okay. Just curious.
It's the same style tree that's on the greenway, that has, if you go back toward the town sign, the 2 trees there that have the huge canopies, but they're kind of smaller in the base, but they've got decent canopies, it's that style tree. In Shiloh Nursery in North Iredale, they're the ones that we ask, and I hope to enter into an agreement with the owner there that they will be our arborist to advise us. He's already said he can't perform the work, but he would certainly advise us of an appropriate tree planting schedule. And even in looking at our planning department, we have certain trees there that are allowed, which exclude some others. And he will meet with us and give us the updated of what has changed, because certain trees are subject to plight or disease and then other trees are not. And depending on what it is we're wanting to accomplish, if it's a privacy screen, there's certain trees that you want in those areas, and our UDO kind of needs to match that. And of course, we need a professional. Even though I grew up in the lumber industry, we cut them down and used them. We didn't plant them to make sure they're gonna be what everybody's goal was. But Shiloh Nursery has trees at Washington DC at the White House. They also have them at the state capitol and several other capitals. And they certainly are good at what they do and can advise us of how to better take care of the ones we have. Yes, sir.
Next item. Annexation boundary agreement.
Mr. Mayor and Council, we had all agreed with the maps that was passed out last month that looked good with you all to proceed. We were going to do a public announcement and hold the public hearings that we were required to do. And our town council and Statesville City Council, it was suggested that a survey be required. Statesville City Manager, and my concern was that it would possibly take too long before we could get into an agreement of doing that. And checking with the UNC School of Government, while a survey is not required, we could have used the maps. Both Ron and I agree with council that if it's for optimal protection of all parties involved, that survey is actually, it defines it. I don't know a better way of saying it. Do you agree, Gary? It just protects everybody by survey. Statesville, if you all agree, and of course Ron could not commit unless his council agrees also, but the cost is anticipated to be $30,000 to $40,000, and Statesville has offered to split that with us, and get the survey done as it benefits both our town and their city. So that's why it was not advertised. That's why we're not prepared to discuss it, is we need to, even though we could have proceeded, to give optimal protection, it's better that we hold and have the surveys done and then notice all property owners involved of why the surveyors will be out there and what the intent is. And I say for the record, just because somebody surveys does not mean these people's property is affected in any other state than they have it. It just gives our town or the city of Statesville, if the property's ever sold, as to whose jurisdiction it would fall under if it's ever requested to be annexed.
I think that makes sense.
Oh. I'm sorry, I said 30 to 40. Gary just showed me it was 12 to 15, so we saved a lot of money on it. I thought it was
Great
12
job.
to 15 hour, I thought it was 12 to 15 hour half, but it may be, whether it's 12 to 15 total or 12 to 15 hour half. Just full disclosure.
Gary's paying for his salary. That was pretty quick, yeah. So, no, I think it makes sense. Again, if Statesville in agreement, we're all still on board, as council. Because otherwise, I think it just makes sense for us to have some definite answers here and survey well.
If you all will, please, Mayor, do have a motion that allows us to do that agreement with Statesville, that we proceed with the cost of having a survey done to clearly define the boundaries.
Based on what manager said.
Make that motion for you, Mr. Mayor, that we split the difference of the
Survey costs. Survey.
for the survey, because in my opinion, like with the mayor, it's gonna just help us in the long run when someone wants to sell their property and it's on, and we can annex it into our town with tax dollars.
I agree, and my initial response, as Gary can tell you, is GIS shows it is color coded, but common sense, it would be, but just to clearly define, I agree with council's recommendation that the survey be.
Dave, receive a second. Any other question or comment? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Next item is a discussion on the mobile food trucks.
Lynn?
At last month's meeting, I brought, before you all, the text amendment, addressing, specifically around fees and how we were gonna handle. Discuss, Gary, unless you think otherwise. The fees, I did wanna just touch on them too briefly, just to clear up. The amendment that I was presenting to you all is specifically part of our unified development ordinance, so it's a development ordinance. So any permitting fees that we're doing as part of that development are development fee schedule. So this food permit, or food truck is going to come through, we know in our set permit fee schedule, which you all approve of the budget every year. Right now, we're charging $45 for a zoning permit, which is what we would issue to the food trucks, which is the same thing that we issue to a restaurant. So the fees are the same for a restaurant, for a food truck. It's basically a zoning permit saying you are in compliance with our zoning ordinance. So that's what the development fee is. Other fees associated with special events, surrounding anything that's going on either at the fairgrounds or in our park. There's a separate fee schedule for that comes to Parks and Rec. We are not suggesting with this UDO amendment that any changes be made to the system that's in place there. However, having that conversation, I did look at our current development fee schedule. I've compared it to other towns nearby just to see what they're charging for fees. And I've tweaked it slightly, which I will include that in my budget discussion. But I feel like $45, maybe we should be charging 50. We weren't far off from what Statesville and Mooresville were charging. But I just wanted to hopefully clear up, any question as to what the fee for the mobile food truck would be that would be associated with the text amendment that was being proposed.
Any questions?
So fees, in your opinion, then, are adequate?
I feel like we're
Or
close.
not at least backing up, shall I say?
I would suggest and recommend that we increase that zoning fee to $50, just make it flat 50. Then we would be would be at the same amount that Mooresville's charging, and I believe Statesville's a little bit higher, and the county's a little bit higher. Statesville's much lower. I don't suggest we go any lower there. One thing we're trying to do with this fee is just recoup staff time, and administrative fees is really what that is.
So again, on individual truck, you're saying instead of 45, 50?
Well, that would be a zoning fee.
Right.
We would recommend that zoning fee of $50 apply to food trucks, yes, sir.
I'm sorry, do what now?
Yes, to answer your question simply, yes, we would suggest $50, raising the zoning fee.
Mhm.
So that would apply to any zoning permit we issue for any use, not just mobile food trucks. It would apply to the food truck as well.
Okay.
Okay, I got a couple questions, so probably, I think I should just probably ask them separate, understand it, and then I can move on to the next question. And somebody can jump ahead of me if they want, that's fine with me. My question is, I read this a while back, and I think it's in one of the other things that we have, the 3 months. My question is, after the 3 months is up, okay, they have to move. Am I
Yes,
grasping this?
that is what's being proposed.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
I'm not trying to be a wise guy here. Here's where my food truck is, okay, for the 3 months. I move my food truck over to there. Okay, I mean, one of the questions would be if Tony moves at 10 feet, and I'm not picking on Tony, but that's the one we kind of know the most about. What is move?
Well, they would
Well,
have to.
how do we define, is that you gotta move to the depot, or you gotta move to the gas station?
At any particular piece of property or address. So Tony couldn't move his food truck 10 feet in the Food Lion parking lot. He would have to leave Food Lion and go to a different piece of property owned by, it'd be a separate new piece of property or new location. So if he wanted to go from Food Lion to Lowe's, he could do that.
Gotcha. And then he could stay there 3 months and then go
Correct.
back to
He could,
Food Lion?
no, it's 3 months at the same location in a year.
Within a year.
In a 12-month period.
Okay, those 3 months, in my adding up, would be 90 days also. So could Tony spend, and again, 15 days there, and then move his location and go back 15?
Absolutely, yes.
Gotcha.
I don't think we would specify it all had to be at one location. If he chose to move to different locations where the property owners had given him permission, he could do that, yes.
But it's still, the timeline is still 3 months,
That is
no matter what.
Yes,
Gotcha. Okay.
I mean, at a particular location.
yes, sir. It is at a particular location
In a calendar year?
in a calendar year. But Tony could stay for 3 months at Food Lion, and I believe the way we've written it, he could go to a different location and set up there.
And pay another fee
That's
if we're gonna charge 50/50.
That would be another permit.
Mr. Hinkle?
Okay, looking at special event, I'm sorry, were you getting ready?
No, I do either.
Again, on special event food trucks, again, you have on the permit fee, special event permits between 50, 200, depending on duration of the event. Are you proposing we stick with that?
But that is not under the development fee schedule, that is outside of my purview.
That's under the Parks and Recs permit.
Okay,
And that was my point in this memo, I was just hoping to help, just everyone understand the difference between, because we are just looking from planning and zoning, to amend the UDO, which is what we enforce. So we were not in any way suggesting we change any other department's fee schedule. We don't regulate that, we don't, administer any of those permits.
let me ask you, this again may not be on your purview, if it's not, then I'll let town manager maybe help me a little bit understanding. Second page under 3, special events sponsored by the town or the Iredell County Fairgrounds are not subject to this permit or the associated fees. So basically, 2 will not apply to anything sponsored by the town or case of the Iredell County.
This was just language that I put in the text amendment to hopefully help everyone, make it more clear, basically, that we were not regulating food trucks that were involved with any special events occurring at the fairgrounds or at the park, or any event sponsored by the town. So this 3 is actually, this section right here is the language that was added to the text amendment section, which is in your staff report. It's in your packet as well.
Let me ask you, let's just for sake of example, so I'm clear understood, obviously the Iredell County Fair, I think would be covered under that, but what about, say, the horse show? Would that also be considered an Iredell County Fairground and sponsored event?
Yes.
Okay.
Under your general definition, under the UDO, it includes fairs. I'm sorry, under the general definition of the UDO, special event includes fairs, so this, it would exempt that.
Okay, as well as something like the horse show, you know, and other type events that they may have there.
And Gary, I think what that means is those fair permits are for, I don't know, you remember, you don't see this much anymore, but you have the little carnivals that used to set up, little fairs that would set up in grocery store parking lots. I think that's what that's talking about. I think this language is specific to the fairgrounds
Right.
itself.
I understand that we wouldn't want to charge someone at our own event, make them get a permit. Why are we not saying that whatever happens at the fairgrounds is, what is our reasoning for that? Because we're talking, the Iredell County Fairgrounds, for that fair, I'm thinking at least 50 different food vendors times $50. I mean, Why are we giving up that kind of money?
Oh, the mayor can maybe answer it better than I'm getting ready to attempt, but from the direction that we had in speaking with the county commissioners and saying we want the fairgrounds to stay here, and the town will do what it can to facilitate that relationship. If the county does something that's under their umbrella, it's for the greater benefit of the project, of the fairgrounds. We then have the sales tax revenue, the visitors to our town, all these other things that comes from that. But going forward, I will only also add that the way the fairgrounds has been is not the way it's going to continue to be. So, for example, somebody may rent it for $2,000 and then bring in their own food vendors, do their own thing, and then leave town from that event. If they finish building this, at least with the committee meetings that we have had, to where it winds up being an around the calendar year event, weekly events happening there, whether it be farmer's market or whether it be sports or whether it be shows or a combination of all those things there, it falls under the county's purview to then manage, but we as a town get the benefit because that consumer is now in our town doing business and or playing outside the fairgrounds. Did I miss that, Mayor?
No, I don't think you missed it. I think there's somewhat of cooperation, if you will, going on here, right? So if the fair comes, it's a countywide fair, it's for everybody to come in, including our residents, right? And so you're talking, if there, say there's 20 food trucks there, I mean, that's what, $1,000, but I mean, that $1,000 compared to an event that they're hosting, bringing citizens, I think as the manager said, and sales tax to the town, I think is where that benefit comes. It's probably gonna be, and the manager's hitting on, there's probably gonna be a little bit different structure in what happens in that fairground going forward. And I think there will be a true benefit from the town as that fairground gets more developed. You know, I mean, the fair's here, but once a year. Again, that's only, that $1,000 for that one time a year. So I think going forward, we're gonna see a lot more benefit when that becomes a more regional event place, event location, than just that regional fair or a couple times a year horse show.
And to add, I didn't mean to interrupt, to add to what the mayor's saying, if it is built out the way we anticipate, there should be a hotel there as well. It may or may not have its own restaurant. There will be on-site food service area that will be inside, to whereas you're not having to have as many food trucks. Certain events, of course, would have them, but if they have the kitchens and food service areas built throughout the amenities, that takes away a lot of this that, again, we still get benefit of the tax on.
I've lived here almost 20 years, and I've never really seen much improvement in that fairgrounds. What's the timeline that we're talking about here?
I can just tell you, in the last 3 years, there has been over $11 million appropriated for something to start happening.
We kind of laugh at that. When is it going to happen? Because there's not
Well,
very
you've
much
got-
progress going on at that location right now.
That really is up to the county commissioners. You have at least one county commissioner that's run around saying, I'm gonna move the fairgrounds, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do that. But yet they haven't publicly made that statement so that the town and or citizens can respond to that. You've got several staff members at the county level that also would like to see it moved. So then we as a town need to decide, you all as council, are we good with that? Are our citizens good with that? Then it be turned into residential and or business property? Or do we go and reaffirm what we did 4 or 5 years ago that says, as the town, we would like to see it stay there because it benefits us as well as them, and so forth. But to answer your question, it's just like our board. Unless they vote to do something and move forward, I don't know. But unlike the previous 17 years, at least in the last year and a half, the money is in place. The mayor and I have been attending meetings, looking at potential plans, looking at different concepts. So I do think that it is more likely to happen unless the one county commissioner gets his way and then convinces everybody else to move it to wherever they want to move it to.
I mean, I'm in favor of, let's be a helpful neighbor, okay, with, hey, have your events at the fairgrounds. I mean, we don't need to charge $45 or $50, but what's going on there now and the progress, it's not very, let's be honest, good.
Well,
So, for us to kind of make a move to say, hey, have 100 food trucks if you want, and we're not gonna ask a dime in permit fees, I think that's been very helpful, okay? But I would like to see some progress, some of those barns torn down or rebuilt or.
Well, and again, I think Mr. White has talked about, it's really only been the last 2 to 3 years that this group has come together and said, we need to do something about this, and we started to move in that direction.
Because we have a gem, that's a gem, that's a big asset over there.
That's exactly
But
right.
it's not being utilized the way that a gem should be utilized.
And I think the majority of the county understands that, and I know at least in the meetings that Mr. White and I have been in, food trucks are not the answer, right? So that committee understands food trucks in a new fairground is not the answer. So I don't think you're gonna see a new fairground with 100 food vendors. It is about how do we, have food so they can be supplied for everybody who attends whatever event's going on there. So again, to me, this issue about food trucks is more status quo, because I don't think in the future that will continue, quite honestly.
Gotcha.
And again, it's not gonna be I've been on boards plenty of times to help build buildings at UNC Charlotte, that when I was at UNC Charlotte, I helped design and build as a student, and then never saw it until I came back years later, and the building's there. So it's not gonna be a quick, thing that happens, but I think, at least for me, I feel good about we're on a positive path, both with the county, and there's a lot of citizens who are part of this committee who are also looking at how do we move this forward. And they wanna see something happen. I think some years ago, as Mr. Wyatt said, we've affirmed twice, from a board perspective, we'd like to see the fairgrounds, what we're calling the fairgrounds today, remain. It may not even be called the fairgrounds in the future, it may be called something totally different. But again, that's just to give you a little bit of that preview.
And I will add to the conversation, at least Senator Sawyer, Representative McNeely, Representative Mills, those three for sure made sure there was an additional significant funding, and I don't remember if the county put in 5, the state put in 6, or if it was vice versa. But that's where the total of 11 million come from. All three of those have said their wishes was the fairgrounds to remain here, and that work to start sooner than later. Again, I won't get into, for public consumption, how funny one commissioner thought that they controlled the purse strings, but if they got you the money, they can certainly take it back if you don't use it.
And that leads me to say that, unfortunately, we did have, I thought, total council support before the last election, or I should say, even before that, when we first started talking about this, as the mayor said years ago. We have one now that, for some reason, and I'm very surprised it's what it is, don't understand, but, and as you say, maybe a staff member or two on the county's part that for some reason seems to think that the fairgrounds, what we'll continue to call the fairgrounds for right now, be located somewhere else in the county. Don't understand the reasoning when you've already got, the structure down here. Yeah, they're gonna have to do some remodeling, obviously, raising and remodeling, rebuilding and so forth. but it's there, people know it's there, it's been there, continue there, and why they're, you know, it's beyond my comprehension, and it's something that, though, that at every stop, or at every turn they make, that we're there to meet them at that turn and say, no, we want it to stay here. Your previous council agreed to stay here.
It's all good.
Your previous council, you know, or not, excuse me, commissioners, agreed to stay here, and let's you know, let's don't talk about that now, so think about it. Let's continue on. In other words, I'm just saying, we said we support this, as T-Ross said years ago, along with the commissioners at that time. That support continues, if not more so. And, you know, I want to do everything I can to endure that support, to convince them that that support is still there. And for the 1 or 2 or 3 naysayers, you know, you're entitled to your opinion, but no, we're going to meet you at every junction, as I just said, and push back on it. No, we want to stay here. And I agree, you know, like anything else with government, whether it be federal or state, it's going to take a while. And the discussions, as the mayor said, have only begun just the past few years. Up until then, you know, under previous councils going back to Steve Johnson, it just kind of was there and left there. And it's kind of like some of the dilapidated houses. They talked about it, but nothing was ever done. So finally, under Mallory, James Mallory, things started rolling, and hopefully it'll continue under the new commissioners and the new chairman or chairlady. You know, if it takes, you know, letting the food trucks remain there, not subject to permits or any kind of reasonable regulation from us or something, or what have you, I'm for that, to let it just remain, to let them say that, you know, we support, we're not charging. That's part of our support to continue to keep the fairgrounds where it is. We're going to work with the county, and anything under county jurisdiction or support or sponsorship, you know, we're not going to charge. We're going to work with you. So again, this to me is part of meeting them and pushing back and saying, no, we want that to stay here, period.
I'm very happy with the answers that Councilman Hinkle and the mayor and our town manager have given me. And I think now, my answer would be, I think we should be a good partner. And again, my question is more, I was never brought up to speed with what was going on at that fairgrounds. And not being disrespectful, but it just looks like a dilapidated piece of junk, okay? But now I see the result, and I'm sure George, maybe, and Jerry and Felina also got a little bit of an education on kind of what's going on down there. And I don't think we should charge now any permit fees for the fairgrounds, because we want it to be successful. So, thank you, gentlemen.
No, thank you for the question. Gives us an opportunity to talk about it, but you know, I would say it's going to be a long process, but I think it will benefit the town long term. And so again, I appreciate the inquiry there, because I mean, I think your view of what it looks like today is being shared by not just yourself, but others, in terms of what it looks like, and we hope that you know, it will be something much nicer and really be a compliment for the town of Troutman in the future.
I echo what the mayor said, but I will also add, kind of goes back to Council Lady Harris when she opened up with saying people's got questions and they have concerns. Even though we've participated in meetings, I feel negligent in making you all aware of things that's being said, but in the spirit of trying to be good public officials, I haven't until tonight's meeting come out and spoke about somebody on another board, and quite frankly, to your point, that board should be driving the message of public input to the fairgrounds, what the public thinks, because every one of us are county taxpayers, and it's a shame that one in particular, maybe two, are disregarding that. But you are right, to make everybody aware where that needs to be discussed in a public forum, so that the public can make the decisions based off of what's presented.
Right. Well, the county commissioners also could be a little bit more transparent with us, because we can become salesmen for that fairgrounds.
That's
okay?
exactly my point.
When I'm having coffee somewhere, or I'm, hey, Fairgrounds is doing this, they're doing it, when I don't know anything, and it looks like a dump, okay, that's gonna, but all of us are on board here to help the county become salesmen for that fairgrounds. So it's an asset to them to promote that fairgrounds to us.
Agreed.
I'm sorry, George.
Just based on location. You and I, we drive past it twice a day. We'll be the first ones to know. You know, and I'm with you. Nothing yet. So I'm with you on that. But yeah, learning, you know, hearing what, you know, being brought up to speed, I'm very, very grateful for that. And that gives me a little bit of hope that, you know, that it's moving in the right direction. It's not, you know, it's not
Well,
just
it
treading
can
water.
become more just a county thing. So we're looking at regional. As town manager and mayor said, you know, more than just a fair and a horse show. You know, regional, something that be happening there every week. Some of the things that we see that are going on in other parts, where it's more than just a particular county, but surrounding and a
True
region.
gathering place.
Right.
Yeah.
Just 3 seconds, I don't wanna beat this to death, but ironically enough, last night the conversation that I was having with the citizen was about that fairground. So our citizens are noticing, because they were like, there's not a lot going on there, and they were asking, what can we do? What can we have, like jazz in the park or food festivals? And they had all these ideas. I said, well, do something. Present it to go to the county and present it to them and do something. So citizens are thinking about that place and what to do there. So
And
we
those
can
are
be
voting citizens that need to be talking to
Yes.
the commissioners, maybe
Absolutely.
a couple in particular, and letting them know, we want that to
Absolutely.
stay here.
Absolutely.
Back to your point, and if you all remember even the discussion of the Wakefield project,
Mhm.
we was talking about the pond area, some natural areas that could enhance the fairgrounds. We had committed as a town, just to make sure, and for those watching's consumption, we had committed for the town, instead of putting an amphitheater in our park, part of our park master plan, that as this fairgrounds develop, instead of us spending money here, why would the town not spend money there to make an amphitheater up there? And we even discussed how it could be coordinated with Wakefield's potential donation to the town. They have already pledged 14 acres that would be ideal for the amphitheater, and we have submitted that to the commissioners. The plans that we saw, none of that was in there. But we certainly have, and we have been talking to citizens around here that would use it for events like you said. But to the mayor's point, I just want to reiterate, if this is built the right way, you can have sports, whether it be indoor volleyball, basketball, other things happening in one section of the park. There can be a food craft show going on in another. There can be a horse event going on in another, and there can be live music in an amphitheater. But the plans at this point are being steered by the persons that would like to see it moved. And that's just being blunt and candid.
And that's what I want to guard against, and push back as much as we can
Yes, sir.
to those
I echo.
naysayers.
Any other questions for Lynn on the fees?
We was talking to Lynn?
Wait, what?
What did I say? Over under.
You had under, so it wasn't good.
This is why.
The next item is for us to go over regular meeting agendas. Consent agenda, without me reading those, is there anything in particular you all have a question about on the consent that we can have information for you or try to answer this evening? Hearing none,
Well, maybe just
sure, go
just
ahead.
a refresher, quick,
Yes, sir.
on G.
Okay,
That's just because I'm getting my lines crossed on property, so yeah, just if you just clarify that for me. And
that's the one we just purchased. That is completed. It is in
okay,
our
okay,
portfolio now.
okay. Good.
Is that correct? He's doing a budget amendment for that.
Gotcha, okay, okay,
That's what that is.
all right.
That's the building we just purchased next to the one we already own. Did y'all see I got the finger from Kim? I just want everybody to know.
It wasn't the finger.
Lowercase.
Yeah.
I want everybody to take special recognition.
Yeah, let's keep convincing ourselves it wasn't the finger.
That's for a different day. Today it was a finger.
Was that sufficient? Was there anything else, gentlelady or gentleman? All right, number
Information in
6,
the package was pretty, real good. to
Sir?
answer some of the information in the package, on the consent agenda was really good to answer what's going on there. Yeah.
thank you for that. We have made some modifications staff-wise and how we get the information to Kim quicker, which is enabling her to do a better preparation. Item number 6, annexation request. That's simply just directing the clerk, as you all know, to go forth and prepare for that. Any questions?
And
Yes,
this
sir.
may be one that you don't really want to answer, but
Oh, we'll
is there a
try.
reason she wants to come to, this lady wants to come into the town? I understand she lives in Cornelius, that's what the application says, and I just, if that's improper or not, I shouldn't ask that, then don't answer. I'm not,
It's a vacant tract of land that she's owned for a while, and she she subdivided it into 2 lots, and now half of the property, or she combined it, excuse me, half the property's in the town, half of it's outside. So she wants the entire property brought in.
So the other piece I saw with her name on it is in the
Is
town.
in the town,
Okay, that makes a lot more sense.
And this is
Right.
lot 2.
correct.
Yeah, lot 2. I saw her name on the other one, I was like, why is she putting the second one in and not
She
the first?
subdivided, yes, she
But-
subdivided.
I'd always thought that all of them were out of town.
Thank you for the question and the clarification. Anything else anybody else have on that? Number 7, approval of amendment to text amendment policy. That's in your packet. Be glad to answer any questions if you have. That's cleaning up some housekeeping procedures we feel has us more modern. 8, resolution approving the town water shortage response plan. That's one of those things, as Councilman Oxer may be able to tell you in one of his former professions, is that's not something you just throw out on the table and see if it flies. The state had to come in and review and dot every I and cross every T to make sure, and I'll be glad to answer any questions I can attempt to with Adam's absence.
is this every 5 years we have to redo this? I mean, is there a,
It's kind of like our town plans. We have annuals and we have 5 years, and we also have a 10-year. But yes, sir.
Which ones you don't have to use?
Yes, sir.
like,
Hope
Hope
you
you don't
never
have to
do.
use.
oh, right, yeah.
Number 9, we talked about earlier in my opening remarks. Number 10, we've discussed that already also. I'll be glad to talk about either one. I would prefer save number 9 for Emily on Thursday. All right, and then the ABC quarterly report. The numbers are finally starting to flatten instead of keep plateauing, but we will see what their numbers are. Roman numeral 5, number 12, the mobile food trucks. We've already started discussion of that. But again, just to reiterate, the reason it is there is it goes back because we had an open public meeting, and that has to resume before we can take action. Roman numeral 6, number 13, this annexation request of the Klein property. And then 14 is the rezoning request of the same property. Again, the town attorneys here or I can remind you all, as we have clearly said, I don't do a recommendation on that like it used to be, but you can certainly open one, postpone it, then hear the project if you prefer, then go back to the other if you would like. Any questions on 13, 14?
Would we need to make a I mean, I agree with that we, you know, obviously, I guess we do the annexation first, and pending our approval or vote on that, we go in the rezoning. make a decision on that and then go back to annexation. What do we?
So I can't close that public hearing on the annexation. If there's a question regarding the rezoning, whenever I'm in the public hearing, when we're in the public hearing, if there's a question at that point, we can postpone, or what's the wording I want, suspend the
Hearing.
the hearing until we hear the rezoning request.
Right.
So I would need for one of the council members to make that request before I close the public hearing on the annexation.
And that's my question, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Is this ETJ property?
It is not. You would think it would be, but it's not. Any other questions on that? 15 is a text amendment to amend Article 6.2.3 in reference to permitted signs. That information is in your packet. B is consider ordinance amending the Town of Troutman Unified Development Ordinance. That's also there, and the consistency of statement would need to be there. 16 is the Town of Troutman bike, what?
I'm sorry, I left off that, didn't I?
Yep. She'll correct that for y'all.
Yep.
Take that finger back.
I get to point my finger back?
A finger.
A
Let's be clear.
16 is Town of Troutman Bike and Pedestrian Plan. That's what we received grant for. There's been lots of hours on that. Andrew will present it. 17, this is where it gets complicated for you all. Our Citizen of the Year. I truly am blessed to see how many applicants we have. And similar, I think it was Councilman Harris, it may have been Mayor Pro Tem that said, oh, that's a good one. Oh, that one's, oh, yeah. Oh, so good luck to you all. I'm glad I'm not in your seats for that or Organization of the Year, because we have, yes, sir?
Just got a question on selection of Town Troutman Citizen of the Year.
Yes, sir?
I've looked over ones, and you're extremely correct. There's a lot of great candidates out there. Do they have to live in the, you answer my question. Okay.
They do not. And as we have said this before, I know I get in trouble, and some of you all wince when I remind people, do you live in the Town of Troutman or do you not? Because you all are elected by those town citizens. We all are paid by those that live in our town limits. However, we have lots of people outside our town limits that are very beneficial and provide good things to our town in whatever capacity that is. I'll use the Carney family as an example. They made a significant contribution to our park that with the town employees wound up and saved the town $125,000. So even though there's certain parts of our business that definitely, in my opinion, does matter, if you live in the town limits or not, this is one of those. We have lots of good people helping and benefiting our town that do not live in our town limits.
So,
And this is
Chris
way for
was
some of them to
nominated,
be.
but he's not, okay, even though he lives in Mooresville, he could be nominated for
He
Citizen
could.
of the Year.
Yes, sir, he
Okay.
could. Matter of fact, a few years ago, Statesville recognized one of our Troutman area people as their Citizen of the Year, and that was Bob Dooley. So it's quite common that
Gotcha.
certain
No,
citizens are
that helps
beneficial to cities
clarify
or
that,
towns.
Because I didn't wanna say, the person doesn't live here, so that's not why I'm considering.
Totally understand.
Thank you.
The citizen may be the confusing part for folks. I mean, you say citizen, well, it must be somebody inside town, but, obviously, that's just in the name, I guess you could say, but it's, if I say, well, it's a community citizen, and it could be Mooresville's community, community citizen, if they've gotta have some sort of definition for that, but I can see where that might, confuse some people who look at citizen and take it literally, but, as our manager says, we've got a lot of people, some of who are obviously nominated that, have done a lot for this town and, may not necessarily live in the town, but they've done a lot over the years and may own a business in town or just contribute to town either services and or money.
Can I ask you a question? Oh.
Yes, ma'am.
So this is the selection of the Citizen of the Year and the organization. Do these people have to be there, or
No,
do
ma'am.
we vote that day and then they come another time?
Quite honestly, I don't know that 90% of them know that they've even been nominated, so they wouldn't know to appear.
Okay,
Uh,
so we just vote Thursday on that person, and then another day we come back?
Next
and
month, we would recognize them if you all, unless you all see a different need. Next month, we would recognize the organization and the person of the year. And even though there's great applicants there, just in being in good taste, I don't know that there needs to be a public debate of, is John better than Bill or better than Sue? I don't know that needs to occur. Each of you certainly are allowed to make your decisions based off of whatever criteria you use. The town in times past have had co-citizens of the year. One instance was two former council persons, and they were a married couple. That kind of made sense with Jimmy and Betty Jean Troutman. But to me, to give the award its prestige, I hope you all will talk to each other and communicate on the one, because that's, to me, it's a proud thing that you all as elected officials decided this one person has been that instrumental to our community. And personally, y'all can do as you choose. I wouldn't share that unless they're married. And same thing with some of our organizations of the year. We've got a lot of good organizations here, some that were not nominated, but still, it's not a slight to somebody that didn't get it. It's just one person or one organization, for whatever reason, just caught you all's eye or flavor a little bit better.
Totally agree with you, Mr. Wyatt, that we don't really want to discuss this in an open meeting, okay? But we probably need to get orchestrated somehow, so we're not embarrassing our candidates, or, one's better than the other, or this organization's better than the other. Because I don't think that should be aired, like you just said, at a meeting.
You all can call each other, but collectively, no meetings to
Right.
decide.
I get the two.
We're good.
Okay.
Just as a newcomer, in either the citizen or the organization, any previous winners here in this group?
None that, well, there was an
There was
organization.
one,
There was an
the
organization.
the Rotary of Troutman.
Yeah, there
Oh,
was.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
They were a previous winner.
Yeah.
And there's no criteria that says it can't.
Oh, yeah, I was just,
So
just, that's the guy, just
Point
curious.
of clarification.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't have a follow-up or anything.
Anybody else?
I wasn't
Thank
sure
you
if
for
it was
answering.
coming.
No.
Thank you. Public comment section, we have had a couple good responses from various persons in the community that like that being at the tail end, so that if people want to comment, that they're given an opportunity. But then it allows you all as elected officials and or staff to respond immediately thereafter. So we have had a couple positive comments about that. And to remind you all, we did have a citizen that requested de-annexation from our town. It's my understanding that he plans on attending, and during the public comment period, we'll make his case to whatever that is. And then that will be it.
All right, that takes us to. I don't wanna give Jerry too much.
Yeah, you're making me sweat now.
benefit here.
It's on us, Gary, apparently. I don't know which one's taking us to dinner, but it's on us.
Takes us to closed session, pursuant to Norcom General Statute 143, 318, 11A5, to discuss acquisition of property. Is there a motion? Move. Is there a second?
Second.
Who do we need?
Just the clerk. Anybody else is welcome to stay at you all's pleasure, but just